recording.
Okay.
Okay. Tell me how you've been.
I have been awesome. It's been 2 weeks. I weighed this morning for the first time, just out of curiosity.
Out of curiosity about your weight or curiosity about your response to it?
My response to it, because I feel so excellent. I just feel so free.
Yeah. So the question I have to ask you then, before I hear what happened, does it matter what the scale says?
No, not at all.
One way or the other?
No, not at all. And the result was that I'd actually gained a few pounds, just 2, which didn't matter.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
I feel excellent.
Well, that's pretty much maintenance, but to someone who's been obsessed with their weight, that could be catastrophic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could take a shit and lose that 2 pounds today.
Exactly.
Not that it really matters, but the key is that it doesn't matter either direction. That if you had weighed yourself and it was 5 pounds less, does the outcome of your weight have any impact on your desire to... Can you hear that?
Is there a weird sound?
Yeah, a dog puking underneath the table. Did you hear that? Okay.
No.
Oh,
Not like my house.
This poor dog puked, but I'm going to let it sit because, you know, the dog's going to probably re-eat its puke. I know that's disgusting.
That's what dogs do.
I know. I'm like, they're going to eat it. She's going to eat it. It's just a bunch of kibble. Anyways, okay. So, yeah, so when you're so free, when your life has been improved, your psyche has improved, your well-being has improved, your state of being, your just everything has improved. Why would you go back into doing what made it so terrible in the first place, right? Not just your weight, but your health, your psychological well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being was in such hell. Why would you go back to that?
I wouldn't.
Right? So whether you gain or lose, if you can be indifferent about it, that's the key to that freedom, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's really crazy because it's only in relation to that attachment to body image that this insanity arises. So you're basically back to reality. It's not like, granted, I will say there is an improvement in that you're aware of the downside of that body image attachment. And you're aware of it from a very visceral, multi-dimensional way, right? Not just how it impacts the way you feel about yourself and the body, but how it impacts your relationship with food. And that... security around food. So anyways, it's just amazing how I know for many of the clients I work with and my own experience, how when you recover, you're back to normal with all the wisdom.
I do not recall in my adult life feeling this free ever.
Well, I'm talking
my whole life.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not surprised. Most people don't even recall this type of freedom. They recall glimpses of it from childhood. Glimpses, maybe, and some people don't remember. But I had one glimpse I could recall, and it was like, and I wrote about it in Weight Loss Apocalypse very briefly about playing in the yard, and I remember fantasizing about I wish I could be that girl. Go back to that, where nothing really mattered. It's a state of mind, right?
Yeah. Who would have ever thought?
So easy.
I never would have thought. It is, but it's also one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Well, I would agree. For me too, the hardest thing I ever did was willing to die. The willingness to die to recover, and that willingness to die really was necessary to get past the literal feelings of permanence and the suffering of, let's just say, being fat in this case, to get out. And you don't realize you don't know there's anything on the other side, right? So you didn't know this existed.
Right.
So many people are like, but I don't know how to do it. Well, there is no knowing how to do it. If you knew, you'd already be here. This is something you have to do. It's like jumping off a cliff. You assume you're going to die. It feels like you're going to die, and the outcome is going to be permanent. That's what it feels like. There's no way of telling anything else. But what you're doing, it's like what brought you to that cliff is a nightmare terror that you're running away from. So either you jump off the cliff or you live in a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe.
It is, and it makes no sense until you do it.
I know, right? Until afterwards. And what's amazing as well is the feeling that people have before is that I'm not capable, that it is going to obliterate me. I can't handle this. But the moment that you just sit and allow this transformation to occur, you pull to yourself what it takes to handle it. But you have to be willing to sit through it for that to happen, right? You have to jump off that cliff. So, people who are going to listen to this video are going to go, what the hell are they smoking? Right? What the heck are they talking about? How would you describe this to someone who's on the suffering side of this process, listening to you going, how is this possible? Maybe it's not possible for me. I don't know.
It's possible to anybody, but you have to get to the point where you literally don't care anymore.
The willingness to lose. You don't care about what? So let's get clear on that. What do we have to not care about?
What you look like.
And other people's interpretation of it.
Yeah, and their opinions.
And your opinion, right? It's like all of it. It's like, because some people don't care. They're old enough and wise enough that other people's opinion are less influential. May have started out that other people's opinion was highly influential, like a boyfriend's or a parent or a sister's or someone significant in your life. But eventually, when it gets very hard, is when you're the asshole holding yourself to these standards, right?
Yep.
And it's getting to where you can accept it without feeling bad about yourself. When you've believed that in thin supremacy and the idea of fat inferiority, when you believe that, how do you reconcile with those emotions? What would you say to that? How does one accept a body they do not approve of?
It's my body. It gets me around. That's how I accept it. My body is wiser than I have ever been in my life.
So you had to change your perspective.
Yes, because I was trying to kill it as best I could.
Well, in order to fix it. Isn't that funny?
Right.
That's the funny part about it.
Force it to conform, make it do all kinds of stuff, and I would tell that suffering person, don't give up.
Don't give up on what? Because what they might hear when you say that is, don't give up on losing weight?
No. Don't give up that you can be free. You can be free. But
That's amazing.
You have to die to self. I don't know how else to put it. You have to die to the desire to be a size 1. And you have to say, you know what, if I'm never a size 1 or a size 4 or a size 8 or a size 10 or whatever, fine.
You have to lose what you fantasize, the attachment to those things, right? You have to lose what you've attached to what those things will do for you. It's not just the image that you're losing, it's what you believed those images and that body
meant.
Yeah, what it means, what it symbolizes, and what you think you'll get from it.
Right, what it offers, which is very much like an addiction.
It's like satanic is what it is. It's terrible.
It is.
It is the devil's contract. It's like, I'll bring you to heaven, you'll be thinner, and we'll do it. It's like the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to surrender why you signed the contract, right, to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it means you have to really address, I think, the underlying issues for why you would want to pursue those things, right? So let's talk about your pursuit of thinness. What were the reasons why you wanted to pursue thinness?
My husband thinks I'm fat, has always thought I'm fat. So that was a big motivator. I'm very short. I'm only 5'1", and I'm not fat, but I'm pretty plump. But that's okay. I'm also very muscular because for most of my adult and young life, I was in ski patrol, and I was very, very active. So I have a lot of muscle.
Yeah. Do you
and
think
I
that...
always thought that if I was littler, thinner, fitter, he would approve. And I finally just gotten to the point where it's like, screw you. I don't give a shit if you approve or not.
Yeah, because it's not his life, it's yours.
That's right.
And it's not his body.
That's right.
It's amazing how we kind of give our bodies to other people as if they own it. They claim it, they own it. I gave it, and you gave it to him. When you do that, it's like, then you're not allowed to actually really inhabit the body you're in until it is what they approve of.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's what you had to surrender, is that, I'm assuming for you with that relationship with your husband, you had to be willing to be alone. If he leaves me, if he divorces me, if he shuns me, I'm on my own.
Yeah.
So to me, what I ended up doing is then I would take that fear of being alone and I would compare it to what I was doing, the suffering of what I was doing. Which one was worse, For many people, the fear of being alone is catastrophically worse. That's why they do what they're doing. It's why they're obsessive compulsive.
I've always been afraid of being alone, but when I really got to thinking about it in my sitting on the curb and everything else, there was nothing that was worse than what I was feeling. No amount of loneliness even came within a million miles of how shitty I felt and how worthless I felt. And so I didn't care. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't like how I look and he wants to leave, don't let the back door hit you in the ass on your way out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't care.
Mm-mm. Now, how has he responded to you?
Not well. Not well. He says, you don't even try anymore.
And what's your response?
I just smile at him, and I don't say a word.
Yeah,
because I'm not going to justify arguing with him, because I would literally be speaking a foreign language to him that he could never understand. God, so I'm not going to give him the benefit of justifying it.
Yeah, or even negotiating.
Yeah.
Like,
not doing it.
Yeah, and you know what? If he really cares for who you are, like the real you, and if there's real love involved here rather than the idea of loving the body, he'll care about you.
Well, that's the $1 million question, but it does. At this point, I don't even really care about that.
No, you are super freaking healthy right now.
Because
someone who doesn't understand this would hear that and go, "What?" Yeah, no, you're actually sounding very healthy to me. This is wonderful.
Before I tried to jump through hoops. I read every self-help book on marriage that there was. I have since thrown them all in the trash can.
Yeah. Well, you cannot change him.
Nope, and I'm not going to change that part of me, because I had to be willing to die to get to where I am.
That's true love for yourself. Yeah. Well, what that is to do what you were doing. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And so I'm not going to. This is not a negotiable issue. My weight is not negotiable with him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I, as you and I discussed, and I've mentioned in other videos, I don't give a shit what the pack thinks. Fuck the pack.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care what he thinks. because I'm never gonna meet whatever this criteria is that I've been trying to meet for 7 years. I've done everything save having my stomach cut up to try to attain this, and all it's done is made me insane. And I'm not doing it.
Yeah. So that's got to feel so liberating for you to be in that space.
It is, but he thinks I'm a complete and total bitch, and that's fine.
Well, when the time is appropriate, when the environment is appropriate,
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with I think maybe where you might want to go is making sure you don't go into the victim position. Not saying you are. I'm not saying you are. That's the first thing, is eliminate the victim position. I love what you said just a little bit ago about him not, it's like a totally different language. Like he's in a different state of mind, which you understand. And you understand that state of mind is completely limited in what it's capable of being aware of.
Yes.
Just by the state of where it's at. So if you've transcended that and you're in a different place, the only way for him to really connect is if you're an amazing teacher around explaining what you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing. But you shouldn't have to do that to get him to approve of you. I think there is the difference, is you're not doing anything for his approval anymore, which is even explaining it. If he loves you, he'll get beyond himself.
Exactly, I refuse. Because I know that no matter what I say or how I try to explain it, how good of a teacher I am or not, he has drank the Kool-Aid of the pack, and he truly believes that I should weigh 110 pounds, get a boob job, wear a size 1, and that's what I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's not me.
And you've got to let him then, what you've got to be able to give him then is the freedom to leave and find that girl who's willing to do all that and suffer for him. And you got to do it in a way that is willful, which you have. I think for you to get here, there was a willfulness to that. Now we're looking at the actual act of it. This is not uncommon because of the person you married. Can you see why, first of all, why he was attracted to you and why you were suffering to such a degree to maintain the marriage?
Actually, no, I don't.
You don't see that?
I don't see that.
So your willingness to work that hard is very attractive to narcissists like that.
Okay.
The fact that you comply, super compliant, willingness to do all that, that's a sign that you're vying for their love and you're willing to hurt yourself for their attention and their love, and they're attracted to that. Someone who's highly compliant. So you're not compliant anymore with this. And so it's going to be incredibly unattractive. So if his love for you was because of your compliance, expect his love to be gone. Because it's not real love anyways. There's no lovingness involved in it. It's just loving compliance. He didn't love you. He loved compliance. So if he really loves you, which is fully, there's capability of that in everybody, like true, authentic love, but he'd have to know how to do it for himself. And that's the other thing, is recognizing that he actually really felt intrinsic love for himself. He would actually know how to do it. And project that outwards and appreciate others similarly. Someone else out there would meet you and go, oh my God, this woman is amazing. Her self-worth is really strong. Has a sense of independence. She knows her boundaries. They'd be attracted to this, right? Because they're at that level of awareness. Make sense?
Very much does.
So, in this loyalty with your partner, give him a chance. And I think as you are, give him a chance to love you, to know what unconditional love is, to where he's going to have to really set down some of the dogma that he's brainwashed to believe and internalized by choice, to really look past. This is no different than someone in a marriage who got married together in religion and one person leaves that religion. Can you see how that would really affect the foundation of the marriage?
Oh, you bet.
Yeah. So this could be similar. I mean, he's talking about his penis and what makes it erect. If we want to just be honest.
Apparently not me.
Right? It's the porn, adolescent porn that he's watching that's making him erect, and he wants you to look like that adolescent girl.
Not me.
I know. It's unfortunate because, you know, he was unbrainwashed at one point. He's a good person, you know. It's sad when men internalize this misogynistic ideal of women. It's sad.
Yep.
They're not in reality. They'll never find someone that makes them happy enough because their illusion is in the porn, right? Or in wherever they're getting their idealism, which may not be porn. It could be just the same media that you're watching, the diet industry, which conforms to that pornographic ideal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that for yourself?
That I'm not going to ever be that way?
No, that your marriage might suffer because of it.
I'm fine with that. You know, I've prayed, I've starved, I've run myself to death, I've walked 10 billion miles, I've gained and lost the same 50 pounds 5 times since I met him.
Yeah.
And in that time, he's never once, in all my efforts, told me that he was proud of what I had done or that I looked beautiful to him.
Yeah.
So my attitude basically is, if it's over, I'm really fine with that.
Yeah, it's not worth sacrificing your... What relationship is worth this? Tell me that. What other relationship on the planet is worth that type of suffering?
None.
I would agree. That's why where I went to as well, I'd rather be alone. I'd rather be alone. I'd rather make friends with a tree. I'd rather just... No relationship should require such severity and mind control and abusiveness and self-abuse just to seek someone's approval. You know, you really have to look at why you were doing it for yourself. Screw him. You know, he's basically everybody in that thin supremacy ideology, right? So he's basically just brainwashed. You were too. So if you look at, like, when you separate yourself from that entire system, will you ever work this hard for anybody's approval again?
Not only no, but hell no and never.
No. This is what I feel is so expansive in the process, is you've grasped onto a devotion to your sanity. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a devotion to it. Not to hurt others. It's not, I'm going to promote my sanity and hurt everybody else's sanity. That's not what this is. It's not self-promotion like a narcissist, right? Where they promote themselves at everybody else's loss. This isn't about everybody else's loss. This is really just about your life and giving that life value. Like, what's the life this body gives you, whether people appreciate your body or they don't appreciate it. The life this body gives you is life. You're conscious, you're aware. You're the only one that can really honor that. Who on this planet can honor that?
Only me.
Yeah, not even your mom or your dad.
You know, I take notes when we talk, and I just put, I will never work so hard to please him or anyone else again. My life, its value, is more valuable than this or any relationship.
Mm-hmm. Once you have that, that's what self-worth is. Once you have an established sense of your worth as a human being, and it doesn't have to be because of anything other than you're alive. There's worth in the life that the body's giving you, and you're here to experience it, right? So you don't have to give to have worth. You can just be to have worth. Once you really establish that in your own psyche, in your own idea of how you identify your subjective self, then you can start giving. Right? I'm married. It's give and take, right? But none of the give and take in any way hurts our being. I'm invested in my husband's individual autonomy as a human being, separate from me. I don't want him to change. I don't want him to be anything other than who he really is as a human and experience life the way that he wants to experience his life. We're just experiencing life together. Raising kids together. I, as an individual person, have a child that I'm raising. It just so happens to be that he's raising the same child. Right? So we're living these parallel lives as individuals who are working together to live and enjoy each other. But we would never want the other to suffer for our benefit, selfishly. And there's always a boundary in that, right? Because I've moved across the country 5 flipping times in the course of 6 years with my husband, right? So there's been sacrifice, but there's always give and take. And then there's boundaries around what it's worth and what it's not. You know what I'm saying?
But it's different because, okay, you're willing to make that sacrifice. That's a sacrifice. That is not forcing your partner to suffer for your opinion.
Yeah, to be something other than they are.
Preference.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, he's got his own internal issues that might stem from his mother. I don't know.
I don't know.
Right? It's like only he would be the one to know where this stems from. But it's not your responsibility. He's going to have to resolve it either with another partner or within himself. You know, honestly,
and highly possibly without me.
Yes. And at this point, if he needs to do that, this is what I think is very important, is the compassion involved for him. That's the direction he needs to go. You want him to find that happiness. You want him to finalize his karmic reason for being here. Maybe this was yours. Maybe this was the main lesson for you in your lifetime, was to honor the life that you're existing in. Maybe his is to figure out something else, and your role and your contract with each other is over. So he provided you an incredible experience to be so grateful for. So having compassion for, he's got to do what he needs to do to figure this out. And if I am enabling it, if I'm an enabler by constantly, conforming to what he needs, he'll never actually face what he needs to in this lifetime. So it can't be your responsibility anymore. And so if it means he needs to go find an alternative, he should do that. Do you see how there's a compassion involved with he needs to do what he needs to do to live a life that he finds valuable? And if that means he needs to find someone that he can sexually objectify, he should do that. You're just done with the role. You did it because you didn't have discernment and you didn't realize what that was. And you needed to have this lesson in your life, and you recovered from it and you wouldn't do it again. So naturally, if he chooses, I know we're repeating ourselves, but my point is to say, well, once you've become aware of that, the goal is to support what he needs to do. If you love him as an individual human being, right? Look at what you just did for yourself. Don't you agree that all people should do this for themselves? They should do what they believe in their heart is the right thing to do for their life. And if that's what he believes, that's what he should do. And then the outcome will write itself out.
Yep. I truly believe that there's a purpose for all this,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's whatever the outcome, it will be fine. It will be fine.
Isn't that the truth? We live in a first world environment. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, it'll be fine. I'm not going to worry about it.
Well, and if the opportunity arises where you can have this constructive conversation with him, not because you're trying to convince him to stay, but to communicate in terms of caring about what the marriage is founded on, and being able to communicate this with him, that if he truly is unhappy with who you are and where you are, and you're not willing to sacrifice your emotional, psychological, and spiritual well-being and physical well-being anymore to pursue this, that you are fully giving him permission to find someone else, if that's what he truly believes he needs to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had that conversation?
No, but I can see that it's coming.
Yeah, and I think for you to have this, it's important that you stay away from the victim position, because you engaged in this voluntarily because of what you needed to learn. Clearly, you needed to suffer sufficiently for you to go, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And then from there, you can see why you were doing it and the relationship and his issues, and you now have more clarity on the other side of it. He does not.
Mm-hmm. So
you can have compassion for how that must feel for him.
Well, I'm sure he's going to be really confused. Like, why is all this happening? What's
she
changed?
Must not love me. Yeah, I mean, there's that too. Because if his love language was this, your willingness to sacrifice who you are for his pleasure, that's his love language, he's going to feel you don't love him. And he might totally care about you unconditionally. He just thought that this is what you wanted. He could be in a totally different place than we are assuming.
Maybe.
I could be wrong, because I know there's a lot of clients of mine whose husbands totally were in a different place than they assumed. But then there are those husbands, and I do have these clients too, who were misogynistic pigs. Because that's the system, right?
Yeah, I'm betting he's in the misogynistic pig portion.
Which sucks, because he's not. That's the system he's internalized.
But he's going to have to die to himself just like I did.
Correct.
In order to get on the other side.
You got it.
I don't know if he has
humility. The word is humility. The humility to do it.
Because it's like I said earlier, you can't give up wanting freedom. He doesn't even know he needs freedom, let alone searching for it.
Yeah, so this is where the compassion part of this comes in. It took what you went through to have this awareness, which felt like death. I know that's the other part of it too, is there's so much, when you meet people who are stuck in these states of, it's easy to be really critical, because, and we can call them fucked up if you want to call them that. But when you go into the space of their existence, it's not clear to them. And what they think is fucked up, what we think is fucked up, they think is fabulous, right? They're chasing a mirage. It doesn't exist, right? But it's fabulous. So they think it's worth it. It's just, you got to let people do it. Just like there were people in your life who let you do it. I don't know if there were probably people who were like, you shouldn't marry this guy. He's kind of a jerk. I can't believe you're doing this for him. I don't know. But
pretty much everybody.
Oh my God. But you didn't have your own discernment. So this is what you needed. So, having that compassion for him is going to be really important for you to exit, and for him to exit in a way where, even if he demonizes you, okay, let's just assume you're going to...
I've been down that road before.
Right? That's his own way of protecting himself from feeling rejected. which is really, really terrible, right? That's what caused your sense of dying, was his rejection. So that's what it feels like to people in that state of mind. So if you are the source of him dying, psychologically, he's not going to be nice. People get victimized. They become martyrs. You're his persecutor, right? That's that codependency drama triangle.
And he's a classic narcissist.
Yeah, he's suffering, man.
He is, and I feel really bad. But by the same token, that doesn't mean that I'm his whipping boy either.
No.
And
no, and it sounds like you served your contract, if we want to call it that. You did it.
Above and beyond.
Yeah, you get an A+. You kicked ass. How does that feel?
It's kind of crazy.
Right, and you're done. You did it. Contract is over. So whether you stay with him or not is really, at this point,
kind of moot.
It is.
Because I don't even care. I don't care if I appeal. I don't care. Because I don't care.
So why then would you stay with him?
Because I made a commitment.
So that's out of loyalty to your commitments, not to him. Doesn't sound like you're loyal to him anymore.
That's not to him.
It's to a commitment. So what if he's not? Well, why don't you give him the freedom, and then I just don't know if that might be.
That's a good idea. I never thought of it that way. I should give him the opportunity and have the problem is he won't have a real conversation. He will not discuss anything difficult or anything.
Yeah, it makes him uncomfortable.
Yes, that will focus a light of any kind on him. So everything's always my fault.
So don't accuse him of anything.
No, I don't. I really don't. I just know that, a month ago, on the 3rd of September, my life changed. And it was bigger than any religious experience I've ever had, which is saying something.
Yeah, that was when you surrendered the body.
Yeah, and it was more profound than anything I've ever experienced before.
Yeah. I am so happy for you. I have had that too.
And I'm not going to let it go.
It's right. Well, how can you? You'd have to get in a car wreck and get some type of brain trauma.
I'm just, it would be like, I don't know.
It's like a flash of enlightenment. It's like,
and then getting free and then saying, oh yeah, I want to be a slave again.
Yeah.
What the fuck? How stupid is that?
Right. I know. It's like a flash of enlightenment. For nothing, for no reason other than total humble surrendering. Yeah. I'm done. I'm willing to lose everything. Please help me. Yeah. Oh, and there it is. You click.
So, I just.
So maybe you just have a heartfelt. Just don't don't attach to his outcome to it. Just say, I'm going to have a heartfelt talk. If you're going to get divorced, if you don't, it could get nasty. I'm just saying, if you give him the opportunity by just acknowledging that this was important to him and it was important to you at one point, acknowledge it. And that you're changing. You can't suffer anymore. You're not willing to do this anymore, and acknowledge that would be, it's unfair to him. Acknowledge it. Because you came into the agreement in the marriage under certain terms, and this is a term you're not going to continue. And just let him know you're not going to be upset at him. You aren't going to, just understand that if he's, give him the freedom. Just give it to him with no conditions around it. And give it to him apologetically, just knowing you're apologizing to the old self, if you want to call it that. Because you can have compassion for how what a shift this could be in a marriage. Again, it's like someone who was raised you got married in a cult together and one of them leaves the cult. How are you going to, don't you, relative to the perspective of the person still in the cult, don't you want them to find another cult member to get together with?
Sure. Go for it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like we're no longer in the same religion. I won't do it anymore. I will not suffer this way anymore. You should find someone, and you don't have to call it that, but just acknowledge that this is it's significant to his preference in women sexually. To him, it's a big deal. Acknowledge that. You don't need to argue and tell him he's a piece of shit. Narcissistic womanizer. That's too easy. Right? Plus, that's probably when he'll get enraged. So, I don't know. Something for you to really think about in your recovery process.
It's coming. I know it is. I can feel it.
Yeah, I can't encourage you enough to go into this with total and complete compassion for him. I'm just saying, I know that when you're married to someone who's kind of an asshole like that, you just have to have compassion for the system that he's controlled by. Because you were just as much of an asshole to yourself.
Yep.
Right?
That's
so you
true.
Can't blame him.
No, I don't.
Right? Can you see how easy it would be to become the victim and be like, he's a freaking narcissistic asshole piece of shit? Anyways, this is not uncommon. When someone recovers from an eating disorder, the source can be your husband, can be your parents, can be your significant other. And then if you're needing to recover, you might have to end a relationship that requires you have an eating disorder for their needs.
It's funny. He always sabotaged every diet I was ever on. Every single one.
Yeah, that makes me think that he really enjoys the excessive eating part of it too. He might have an eating disorder too.
Oh, he has a lot of disorders.
Yeah. Kind of all or nothing.
Again, I feel very sorry for him.
Yeah.
I really do. On this side, I can fully understand in your recovery how you were able to forgive those boys, even seeing them every day.
Right.
I totally get it because I really do feel sorry for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would never want those boys to be identified by that mistake ever.
Exactly.
That to me is wrong. But identified by my trauma, that is. They don't deserve that trauma. The religion I was raised deserved that trauma. Because that's the only reason why I felt so traumatized. It was because of the isolation I was held into because of the religion. It was because of my fear-mongering. It was because of the morality attached to it, right? So we could look at your husband the same way and go, well, this diet industry and the misogyny of our narcissistic, I am going to keep my political opinion to myself in a second. That side of this system is insanely narcissistic and misogynistic. That's what he's being influenced by. It's incredible. And it's almost innocent. He's innocent.
He was trained in that.
Yeah, so were you. So were you. Can you see why you two gravitated to each other?
Yep.
I know. And it's also somewhat inherited through thousands and thousands of years of evolution. Survival mode is there for a reason. And some of these symptoms that you had and he has are inherited. What are we going to blame? Like Your grandparents and your great-grandparents and your great-great-great-grandparents and their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. I mean, how far do we go? You know?
Adam and Eve or
yeah,
whatever.
I mean, the amoeba, when we were amoebas.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's like, goes back into the primal part of our evolution. Primal part of creation, if you want to think of it that way. It's just, that part of the brain still exists. We can't get rid of it. It's how much of our body is regulated is from that area of the brain. You know? It's just our frontal cortex and our, processing can be hijacked by it. We're highly intelligent assholes when it comes to survival. So you got to see him as a little boy. Really doesn't know what he's doing. And the programming that he's experienced and the perceptions that he's had and the stories that he's carrying with him, all of it is influenced. And if he needs in his mind, in his space, in his karma to continue that type of relationship with a woman, he should do it. You should encourage him to do it. Just find someone else. And maybe you go into the backdrop of this relationship as a friend. Do you have children together?
No, praise
Thank
God.
the Lord. Oh my God. That is great news.
Yes.
You are so fortunate.
I know.
Can you imagine if you had children with this guy? Now you have children who are being indoctrinated by it. Anyways. I'm excited for you. Things are about to change for you. Whether you stay with your husband or not, things are changing. They're changing. So.
Yep, and I'm excited. Change is good.
Right?
Change is good.
It just makes you appreciate life so much on such a different level, doesn't it?
You know, and I've only I don't even think I've binged. There was a day a couple weeks ago where I felt hungry the entire day. And so I ate the entire day.
I have those
but
days.
I didn't.
But it's not a binge. It's like
right. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel bad about it.
Yeah, well, those are the markers of a binge right there.
Yeah, I didn't care. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm really hungry today. Great, go for it. You know? And I don't worry about it. I just don't care.
Yeah, and that day probably was pretty big because that was a day you had to surrender it actively. I'm hungry. I'm actively surrendering this illusion that I'm doing something wrong by eating because I'm clearly hungry. That might have been a good day for you in terms of the active process of surrendering as it occurs.
Yeah, it was hard, but it was all right. You know, I was like...
You know what I mean, though? You actively did it as it occurred. Yeah, instead of going into the drama of what you shouldn't do. Oh, my God, what am I doing? Oh, shit, feeling bad. I'm hungry. I shouldn't have done that.
I refused to go down that road.
That's like staying...
It tried to call me, feel guilty, and I was like, no, I refuse to go down that road.
Do you see now where the hunger scale rope probably came in to be so important? So because it gives you a relative point of rationality. I am hungry. I am hungry. You get into that place and you question, am I really hungry? And when the answer is yes, which one's more correct? The hunger or the guilt?
The hunger.
I know. And that's what helped me those first, when you come out of this and your brain is conditioned to go, you suck, you piece of shit. You shouldn't be eating. You're clearly eating too much. All of that conditioning. That awareness, you can have that shift of awareness, but it doesn't instantly remove that conditioning. So it's almost like you have these two positions in your psyche in that moment. There's a conscious awareness that there's no need to do anything, and then there's the you should do something. And so again, relative to like the eating disorder, body image stuff, the hunger scale is the rationale around, no, I'm hungry, or no, I'm not eating. I don't care how loud you deserve to eat. You deserve it. that will never have a voice again. Even if it's still there, you're not giving it power. So you depower that old language, right? It may be there, but it has no power or relevance. And so once you do that, it's so easy that it's like it just disappears. You know what I mean?
Yes. Today I was starving, and so one of the teachers here sells Pop-Tarts, so I went and sent one of the kids and got me a Pop-Tart. And so the kids were looking at me, and I'm like, "Are you guys hungry?" And they're like, "Yeah." And so I gave them my Pop-Tarts. Before I would have died for that fucking thing. And I was like, "Yeah, okay, here." I broke it into pieces and I shared it, and they're like, "You're doing that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, eat it. Don't worry about it."
Because there's abundance. You have a table of abundance at all times.
And they just stared at me. They're like,
really?
They couldn't believe what I had done. I couldn't kind of believe what I was doing because I was hungry. I was like, "Yeah, you guys need it more than I do. Here you go."
Yeah, and it's easy, right? Notice how easy it is.
It was not even an issue. It was like, "Here, you want it? Go for it."
It just comes natural to that state of being, that place of being. It's a natural way that we all exist in it. It's natural, right? It's kind of like how natural it used to be to diet when you were on the different state of being.
Oh yeah, which one do I do now? Which one do I do
that
now?
That was natural. Once you come out of that, it's unnatural. You're like, what the?
It's just dumb.
Food is everywhere. Why am I acting like there's no food? Yeah. I know. Well, it's easy to laugh about it now.
It wasn't easy before.
I know. Oh, but in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, I was starving myself. Well, no wonder I'm going to be hoarding a Pop-Tart. And then once I eat the Pop-Tart, I've ruined it, so I might as well on my way home stop at all these fast food places and get a peanut butter parfait, get at least 2 burgers. And then tomorrow, I am going clean eating.
Yeah, not.
No shit, right? It's just like, why?
And then the cycle just repeats itself, and you feel more guilty, and then you try harder the next day and feel more guilty. And
well, and the crazy thing is,
you're just nuts.
And you're eating Pop-Tarts all day, feeling like shit. And so then you're like, then it promotes the whole anti-Pop-Tart, right? And so you get stuck in this insanity.
So you just become psychotic.
Yes.
Over a Pop-Tart. I'm like, really? My life has come down to being totally insane over if I do or if I don't eat a fucking Pop-Tart?
Yes. And so when you're miserable and they say you're addicted to the sugar in the Pop-Tart, can you see why it's so easy to accept that?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's easy to blame that instead of the situation of your thinking.
Well, you got it. And your beliefs.
Thinking requires reaction.
All of this pressure for you to be thin for your marriage and for the love of a man who only likes thinner women. You know what I mean? There's like all of this. They're not talking about that.
Nope.
It's all about the sugar.
Reduce your calorie intake.
I know. You're addicted.
Yeah.
It feels like it when you're totally unconsciously, you don't understand what's backing it. Well, I can understand that. I can understand the confusion. There's so much confusion in it. It took you a long time to really piece this together. It took work we did years ago, and for you to go back into that insanity, and then for you to come out the second time, for it to click.
Yeah, it's been almost 2.5 years.
Yeah, you needed to go through more suffering, and I say that to everybody too. This isn't a process where you're bad if you don't recover and you're good if you do recover. Recovery really, I know for me, was a matter of suffering. For me, the ego was strong and prideful. And you're willing to hurt rather than face and admit failure. So I had to hurt bad to the point where I'd prefer to just commit suicide. So for me, it took the depths of a level of hell that is undescribable. Yeah. And the moment I surrendered it all, the willingness to surrender existence, for me was just transformational. For years, I could feel the trees in a weird, illuminating way. It was amazing. And I think when I got pregnant, it changed things for me, because I think when you're having babies and you're in that maternal state of mind, there is a level of survival mode that occurs. That I kind of still have. It's part of the animal part of my being, I often wonder if it'll come back, that level of existence. I know it exists. I know I'm capable of it, but it's kind of hard when I'm trying to get my kids to not smoke pot, when I'm trying to, right? Just want them to wait. Just the crazy shit that we're dealing with is trying to integrate our kids into reality, so you have to know reality. You can't live in some fantasy illuminated world and raise kids.
No, you can't. My thought's always been the more honest, the better. Even if it upsets them.
I'm trying. But anyways, I digress. I'm really curious. As your coach, I'm not a counselor. I'm just a guide in this process, and I don't know what I'm talking about. So take everything I say and give yourself grace around it, okay? I would highly recommend you have this conversation with your husband. When you feel that you have the position and the space, and you can hold yourself into a space of pure love for him, to allow him to go in total peace.
It's exactly the same thing that happened with the weight, except for with the relationship.
Yeah, well, your weight was a relationship. It's a relationship with the body you're in. So you can say that what it took to relate to your body in an unconditionally loving way is really how we relate to all relationships. The one relationship that is the most intimate and valuable is the one you have with the body that supports your life and is providing you consciousness. In fact, it's not just providing you consciousness, it's providing you everything that you're experiencing in this second. Your sight, your hearing, your awareness of what I'm saying, the ability to form your words the way you do, everything that you're experiencing in this moment is a gift. You are doing nothing but allowing it. You do nothing. So how you relate to that nothingness that you're doing and the gift of awareness really transfers into how you relate to your life and the other relationships you have. So you are right on the target when you said, this is exactly what I did with my body. Yep, you were going to allow the body to be what it really is. And if you love the man that you married, as an individual person, as someone's son, as a human that has merit, you want to give him total autonomy to pursue what he believes he needs. And if it means he needs to find another thin woman, that's what he needs to do. Get into his karma and start it moving sooner than later. Enabling him does nothing for him. It keeps him stuck in that state. So get yourself into a space where you're forgiving him before you go into it. So you might need to meditate on that.
I will.
And meditate on how you're going to take care of yourself and what you'll do and what you're willing, what you're going to surrender, what you're going to let go. And understand what you're going to do if he chooses to say, you know what? No, I want to stay with you. I want to work this out. How you're going to respond to that too.
Fine. Let's do it.
Get some counseling.
Yeah. Fine with me.
Yeah.
I'm fine either way.
Yeah. So you do love him.
I do love him.
Yeah. For you to say that there is a love for who he is, that's very different for love for the idea of a marriage.
I love him.
Yeah.
I love even the broken parts of him.
Yeah.
I don't know if anymore, with what I understand now, if my love is enough.
Yeah. Well, maybe you just maybe take it as a beginning of a new, like dating, and if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Maybe it's kind of like renewing the
Yeah,
marriage or not. Like, let's
yeah,
give this year to see if we are cohesive. And if we're not, we don't have to renew the marriage.
right. We can make a decision at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be cataclysm.
Right.
It doesn't have to be catastrophe. It can be the better of the good for both of you.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
all right. I'm going to stop recording.